Previously on Seeking Justice.
You've reached the Phoenix Division of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. If this is an emergency, hang up now and dial 911.
The message goes on and instructs members of the media to email any requests. So, I start typing a message. I'm an investigative reporter, filmmaker, currently working on a project about the search for Robert Fisher. My investigation is turning up new leads and information on the case from the public, and I'd like to talk with you about it and set up an interview. I want to give the FBI the opportunity to share their thoughts and information, just like I've given to Scottsdale Police Department. Warm regards, Rob Koebel. As a crime reporter, I've covered hundreds of murders, done dozens of ride-alongs, gone undercover on sting operations. I've even been invited to the F.B.I. Academy to see the training that new agents go through. I've walked death row, seeing only a set of eyes staring at me through the small slits. I know their names and I know their crimes. These are the ones who've been caught, and it's those ones that got away that still get me. Join me, Rob Koebel, as I go out seeking justice, the hunt for FBI's most wanted, Robert Fisher. Oh, finally. I see an email in my inbox and it's from the FBI. Let me read the response to you. Good afternoon, Robert. We're not able to provide an interview for the project. However, we would point you to the information that we have online. As always, we would encourage anyone with information to report it to the FBI field office or to tips.fbi.gov. Thank you. Joe McCabe, Public Affairs Specialist, the FBI Phoenix Field Office. And while I'm disappointed the FBI didn't see it important enough to call me back and follow up, I get it too. They have their own investigation and a case file I'm not privy to. The same goes for the Scottsdale Police Department. After several back and forth emails requesting an interview with the detective, they seem to have blown me off too. I'll say this, it is strange though because both the FBI and Scottsdale Police have given numerous interviews over the years, and I don't get why they're so tight-lipped now.
Thank you for calling the Los Angeles Marriott Burbank Airport Hotel.
I arrive early for my meeting at the Marriott Hotel in Burbank, California. I'm looking forward to lunch and an interview with a man who has a ton of knowledge about this case.
Everything's in the film. I think, I still stand by the film. I think it's one of my better films. It's definitely a very creepy film. It's a very outlandish film. Bizarre, warped, wretched. It's all that.
That's the voice of Charlie Min. He is the director and producer of the 2011 documentary film Where is Robert Fisher? During our interview, we cover a wide range of topics and theories, including his interview with Robert Fisher's sister.
To this day, the interview with the sister, I think I'm pretty good at reading people, but this one was a hard one. When someone has a great poker face, you just don't know. And to this day, after watching that interview again with the sister, you're just not sure if everything she's saying is 1,000% sincere. Because at the end, that's her brother out there. That's family, that's blood. And you'll say anything for your family. I'm not saying she was being deceptive with me. She's never been...
But something made you feel unsettled?
I'm saying I'm not sure. I'm not saying she's honest. I'm not saying she's dishonest. I'm saying I'm not sure. And I think I asked her in the film, would you report him to the police if he called you or if you knew where he was? So I believe she said, yeah, I would be honest with the police. I would turn him in. But again, I do want to say this. Police say Fisher allegedly killed his family. There's no solid proof of that. So I do want to make that part clear.
I'll go as far as to say, as most of, a lot of others have, they've called him a monster. If he was actually not involved, and we are innocent until proven guilty, right, then he's gone. He's disappeared. The house was basically empty of his personal items, and the only thing he left behind in that car was a fingerprint, his ball cap, the dog, and a piece of shit on the side of it.
As I mentioned, this is a 50-50 case for me on whether he's alive or not. The problem with this case is that a lot of people look like Robert Fisher. You go to a Diamondbacks game, and there's a lot of people that are sitting in the stands getting a beer or watching the game with their family. They look like Robert Fisher. And I'm telling you right now, working as a former producer for America's Most Wanted, the one thing that really troubles investigators is when you're dealing with a smart criminal. they have a tendency to stay ahead of you and make adjustments. And Fisher, as we mentioned, he was a professional. Smart guy by all accounts, a survivor in his own head. So perhaps he could last this long out there somewhere, maybe in Mexico where you don't need official documents so much. You can kind of slide through with cash all the time, live under the radar. But you got to believe at some point, and what investigators always count on is for a criminal to make a mistake. And you might slip up, you might maybe talk too much, and sometimes you have to get lucky. Maybe you'll just spot him somewhere, or maybe he'll be a little bit too public with something. So investigators in the FBI are just hoping that Fisher makes that one tiny mistake that's going to blow up and solve the case.
Mary's family didn't want to talk. Her dad passed away, but as far as I remember, Mary's family never wanted to talk. Did you reach out to them?
Yes, we did. And sometimes you get lucky and you're able to land an interview, and sometimes you're not. I believe we talked to Mary's sister over the phone and by email. And, we did have difficulty. And I understand. I mean, family members are so hurt.
Yep.
They're so devastated. I never take
They're
it.
victims too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I never take it personally. I mean, if they don't want to talk about it, then that's their right.
Right.
And everyone.
But you always want to give them the opportunity because they may have something instead of focusing all on Fisher. They may want to talk.
They may want to get something off their chest.
Right.
And every victim, survivor, they have their own way of dealing with a tragedy. Some are very open. Some don't want anything to do with you, and will never talk to the news or a filmmaker or anything. And others actually are not sure. Like some in the beginning won't talk, then they will. Some will talk, and then they'll regret that they talked. It comes in all sizes and shapes. I mean, it's very tricky. It's hard to analyze someone's mind after they've been through something so traumatic. I mean, you could have the most world-renowned sociologist out there, and they probably couldn't tell you, okay, if this happens, then that happens. How can anyone truly know? We're all human beings. We're all individuals. We're all wired differently.
I think I remember them saying to me, at least when I reached out to them, what will it do? What kind of change? It's not going to be any different. Does that jog your memory into why they didn't want to talk to you?
You mean the Mary's family?
Yeah.
Gee, I'd have to almost go back and look at my.
That's okay.
Look at my notes. Yeah, I mean, I think the only way to solve this case is for, again, Fisher to make a mistake, or somehow he turns himself in.
Or the public, right?
Or the public. But I'm telling you right now, with the public today living on their phones, staring at their phones, I mean, how often the average Joe wakes up and goes, I want to look for someone who's on the most wanted list? We're not wired that way. It's a different world today. I mean, investigators would have to get so lucky if one person just happens to think they saw him and then turn him in.
It's 18 years later. What if he were to get sick and just died?
Well, I mean, I guess that's another possibility. But again, if one of his remains is in a cave and they can't get to certain areas of the cave and it's 50 feet below in an area that you just can't reach, well, then I guess they'll never find it. At the end of the day, we had a mom shot in the head. We had two young kids, ages 12 and 10, almost decapitated. So obviously somebody did that, and then the fire obviously is set to destroy evidence. So,
although, the one thing I will raise and just, would love to hear your opinion on it, this guy is a former firefighter. He knows that as an arson, even if you have the basic information, it's not going to destroy the evidence. It will delay. When they got to put that thing out, they've got to go in there, they got to search, they find bodies in there, but it won't destroy evidence. And Fisher should know that as a firefighter, even volunteer in San Diego, he'd have the basic ideas. I mean, he's a smart guy.
That's a fair point. Yeah, he obviously knew everything about what fires are, and perhaps that was set to just buy him more time. But I think the main reason is to destroy evidence, and that's like the last thing investigators want to see in a crime scene is one that's on fire. Fire could destroy just about any evidence there is, DNA, anything. So, yeah, I mean, it certainly, everything points to Fisher doing it, but again, there is no solid proof yet. One far-fetched theory I heard during the investigation was that perhaps Fisher was the victim himself.
Sure.
And perhaps someone killed the family and made him disappear. I don't think that happened, but I think to this day, when a case is so mysterious, you just don't know for sure. I feel horrible for the Fisher family, and we lost 3 lives. I mean, all young. The son and the daughter would be, in their late 20s now, probably married.
Isn't that a think about that?
Yeah, I mean, when you kill when you kill one person, I've always said you're really killing about 10, because they have close friends and family. Maybe they were going to be mom and dad one day. So when you kill one person, you're really killing about 10 people.
On the next episode of Seeking Justice, I return to northern Arizona, continuing my search for this mysterious rancher. Plus, I make a strange discovery when I visit the Fisher's family gravesite in Scottsdale, Arizona. The note is dated April 11th, 2020. It's a handwritten note on stationery, and it's actually written to Robert Fisher. Seeking Justice: The Hunt for the FBI's Most Wanted, Robert Fisher is a Back to One Entertainment production, hosted and produced by Rob Koebel, edited and produced by J.J. Geiger. This podcast was recorded under a SAG-AFTRA collective bargaining agreement. All rights are reserved.